Hi creatives, I am Dima and you're welcome to another interesting sewing tutorial. On today's tutorial, I'll be sharing with you how to make this beautiful basket structured design or detail that you can see on the screen. You can use it in various forms like this, okay? You can see how it's used on the sleeve and the dress. You can use it on your skirts like this, okay? And you can as well use it on this underbust corset that you can see on the screen. Okay, you can use it on a costume outfit like this or various costume outfits. All you need is your template and to follow the steps that I am going to show you in this video. Let's get right into it. So what we need is all you can see here, the miniature dress form, and I have my paper, I have my tape, and then this ruler or curve, and then I have my ridgeline bone, and then this raw silk fabric that you can see, and of course my marker. Now, having shown you all this, I will start with the miniature dress form, which I will be using to take my measurements. Now, to take your measurements, you just have to go ahead and measure right where you want to put your structured detail, okay? Measure it if you want it round like this from front all through the back and to the front again. Go ahead to measure anywhere you want to put it. Just measure it and ensure that it's not in a way or in a manner that it is uncomfortable for your client, okay? You take it in a way that your client can still move their body, all right? So having said that, we will go ahead and take our measurement like this, which gave me 13 inches for this miniature dress form. Please use your exact measurement, not 13 inches. This is an illustration, okay? So right here, I am going to go ahead and fold my paper like this and take my measurements from fold, just as you can see me do, okay? So this is 6.5 that I took right now, and I will just rule a line right there. Now the next thing is to measure how wide I want it to be, the widest part, and I chose 4.5 inches, and that is what I am measuring right here. So after measuring the 4.5 inches, I had to go ahead and rule a line as well. Now after ruling the line, I will just go ahead and cut out this rectangular box. Now the next thing to do is to divide this and rule more lines to make the template of this design. Now what I did here is to go ahead and come in by 1 inch on both sides, and I connected like this. Now feel free to make your own design based on what you want to create. You can make several templates depending on the design you want to achieve. So I had to go ahead and cut out this. After cutting it out, I will go ahead and draw lines to make my templates, okay? So right here, I had to go ahead and divide this part. I first measured about 1/4 inch for each compartment to divide it into 4 equal parts. But I changed this measurement later. Just watch and you will see what I did. So right here is 4.5 inches in total. So I had to go ahead and mark. So you can see what I have. I had to go ahead and mark 3/4 inches each of the compartments. I think 3/4 inch. Yes, just divide it into 3 equal parts. Okay, divide your measurement into 3 equal parts, and here I noticed that the upper part is divided into 4 equal parts, so I had to divide it into 3 equal parts. I hope this makes sense, okay, so that it will give you just 2 lines at the middle that will connect the 2 lines beneath. Okay, divide the lower part into 3 equal parts and then the upper parts into 3 equal parts, then draw a line like this. So I had to repeat this line on the opposite side of this pattern. You know it's on fold and I can see through the paper, and that is why I marked it like this easily. And then I had to go ahead and draw my lines just like this. I opened up and blended the line at the middle. So this part is complete now. I will go ahead and draw the ones that will be across. Now you know that the length is 13 inches. I just had to go ahead and mark 1 inch, 1 inch, and then I had to mark it again on another point before drawing this. Yes, so that I will get straight lines. So I marked 1 inch again, and then I had to go ahead and draw my lines across, just as you can see me do in this video. So you have to go ahead and mark it out like this, and then we will be placing our bonings all along all of these lines. Okay, so now the next thing to do is to cut out the raw silk fabric, just as we will be needing it. So what I did first is to measure the bone. So you have to know the size of your bone so that you know the quantity of though how wide the raw silk will be, or any fabric you're using. So what I measured here is almost ½ inch ridgeline bone. So I had to go ahead and measure 2 inches wide of the raw silk fabric. Okay, so I had to do that. This raw silk is unfold, just as you can see. I had to measure 2 inches and cut out as I measure. So this is what I did and cut out the first one. Then I had to use the first to cut out more strips of this raw silk fabric. So that is what you're going to do, and then we will start wrapping up our bonings with this. There are several ways to encase your boning, but this is the method I used for this one, and I think it's fine. So right now I had to go ahead and take the length of the ridgeline bone that I'll be needing, which is exactly the length of this raw silk. That is what I did, and I'll be placing it and stitching it. So right here we are at the sewing machine, just to show you exactly what I did to stitch this boning. So this is how you're going to place your boning on the raw silk fabric and start stitching. Okay, you're going to be stitching on the part of the ridgeline bone that is sewable. You know, there is, if you stitch in, your thread will be cutting, but if you stitch exactly where at the extreme, like the outer parts, you will not have any issues at all. So go ahead and wrap up your boning like this. That is how to do it, and then stitch down again on this other, after wrapping it up. So this is how I placed it, and I will wrap it properly as I stitch. So this is what I'm going to do for all of the bonings I'll be using for this project. So go ahead and stitch this down and wrap as you stitch. Wrap as you stitch, okay? So after stitching it down like this and wrapping it up all along, you cut the thread. Ensure to always cut every excess thread to make your work neat. So I had to go ahead and trim out this fabric, excess fabric here. Yeah, it's always better to wrap up and have an excess of about ½ inch or thereabout. It's always better than managing your fabric to wrap up what you want to wrap up. Okay, so this is what I have at the end of the day, and I'll be using it on the template that we made earlier. Now this is how I'll be placing it on this template, just as you can see me do. So I will also place across like this. So I actually placed across like this first before putting up the long lines on top of it. So you watch me do it as I show you what I also learned in the process of making this beautiful piece. Okay, so this is how you're going to be placing your bonings and stitching it up. So let's go to the sewing machine. So here I am at the sewing machine to show you how I stitch down all of this. So this is how you're going to place it on your template and then stitch it down like this. So I stitched this way and cut it, and then stitched the second part and then cut it out. So that is what you're going to do as well. So after cutting it out like this, I'm going to cut any excess. So that is how I did this. In the process of sewing this, I will tell you that it is better not to use a tight stitch, a stitch that is close to stitch this. Yes, just use a medium tight stitch to do this. And if you have a stronger paper that is not this white pattern paper, please go ahead and use it. Okay, you can see how I cut this out, exactly the amount that I needed, and then stitch it down. So ensure you also use a stitch line that is not too tight. Okay, then you can stitch on one side. Yes, stitch on one side. One side is enough. One side is enough. Is when you are stitching the longer one that you stitch on two sides. One side is enough, and stitch it on the side that you have not stitched before. You know, when you were wrapping the bone, you stitched on one side. Just place your bone and stitch on the side that you haven't stitched before. Okay, note that the line that I marked is at the middle of this boning. That is how I place it as I move. Okay, so this is me stitching the final one, not like the final, because I'll still stitch the one at the end, but that is after stitching the long lines. Okay, so this is how I'm going to be placing this boning and stitching along all of this. So I decided to start as with one at the middle, one of the two middle lines. So after stitching them, I will now stitch the final boning for the shorter bones. I hope this makes sense. So this one, you're going to be stitching on the two sides, not one side, please. Okay, but the first one you can stitch on one side. So after stitching it, this is what I have. I stitched the long ones and then finished it up with the short final one, and this is the result at this point, and it's looking so beautiful. I'm loving it. So what you do at this stage is to go ahead and remove all of the papers. Remove all of the papers, remove all of it. Okay, it takes a little time, but yes, it's possible. So after removing it, you now place it where you want it to be and go ahead and tack it down. Okay, so what I'm using to do this is just a pin. I'm using office pins to pin this one down to show you what the result is like. Okay, you can see what it looks like. It's looking so beautiful. It's looking so lovely. If you are attaching it to a dress, of course you will tack it in a way that your tack seams will not be showing. Tack it neatly. You can see how lovely this is. You can use it on a skirt. You can use it just on the ideas that I showed earlier and much more. So this is the final beautiful result I got at the end of the day. Are you going to try it out? Are you going to use it for your designs? Are you going to use it on outfits or structured costume outfits? Okay, just feel free to experiment, feel free to be creative. Yes, and let me know what you got in the comments. Subscribe and turn on your notification bell for more interesting tutorials like this. Let me know what you think. Tell me something on the comments. I love you all, and of course I will see you in my next one. Bye.